Hey everybody, welcome to Tabletop Never Stop. I'm Toss Sage. We're gonna go through a lot of spoiled content on leaks, etc. There's a lot of boxes out, hero boxes and unit boxes, and we even have a few cards. So stick around for those. We'll be looking at those at the end of this video. But since you're here, I want to subscribe to the channel. We do a lot of content of Song of Ice and Fire, as well as other tabletop content. Let's just jump right in, shall we? So first thing I want to talk about is the Nightwatch conscripts. Obviously, conscripts imply a low-cost unit, which, since the lowest cost unit we have right now is 6, are we talking about a 4-cost unit, maybe even a 3-cost unit like the free folk have? Potentially, conscripts, are pretty unimportant. I could even see them being insignificant, which would be interesting. Of course, I don't think you want to let the Night's Watch have loads and loads of insignificant units. So if you did that, you would want to maybe make them limited number. And of course, there's no financial reason for CMON to be making units that you can only buy 1 or 2 of. So probably not insignificant then. But time will tell. Certainly going to give the Night's Watch some options. Having a cheap unit you can slide in there will certainly be good for them, in the sense that sometimes it's just hard to get those last couple points into an army that's all elite. So here's the Warrior Sons. We've known with the guys for like a long time. They're teased in the Kickstarter. We still don't have stats, but obviously a higher morale unit than other Lannister forces probably. Probably work well with the High Sparrow. I think we can expect a Poor Fellows unit eventually also, and at that point, there's going to be Lannister High Sparrow lists. Not that there aren't already, that could be potentially very dangerous, especially supplemented with some Lannister guards. Could be a pretty big meta shift. So, exciting times for Lannister players, definitely. All right, and here we are at our first Heroes box. Internet's full of speculation about who these guys could be. There's certainly lots of important characters from the books that we haven't seen yet. Awful Yarwick, Corin Halfhand, Donald Noy. I don't think I see anyone with 1 arm, so Donald Noy isn't necessarily looking that realistic to me. I would expect Corin Halfhand for sure. Also, Sam and Gilly, we've seen them. Maybe the character standing in the back. Other potential characters I think we might see are the leaders from Eastwatch and the Shadow Tower. That's Malister and Pike. Although I don't think they're necessarily in this box. Reason being, I think they make a lot of sense as additional Night's Watch units. An Eastwatch men or Shadow Tower skirmishers, something like that. And then maybe you throw those guys in that box, or release them around the same time anyway. A lot more to still find out and know about these guys, but again, it's always good to know this stuff's coming down the pipeline. Certainly looking forward to finding out more about these guys as time goes on. Here we are with the Free Folk Heroes. There's 2 guys that are super obvious on this box. Obviously, a Grit, redhead, front and center. We're not you're not fooling anybody. It's Ygritte. And then Lord of Bones, also pretty clear. He's literally wearing a giant skull. And for everybody else, there's lots of wildlings that John meets in his travels beyond the wall. And I feel like really these guys could be almost anyone. Sitting at the bottom left, character looks kind of female, potentially Harma Dog's Head. Although if you read the description of her, she's actually described as like a large woman, so that might actually be the person standing at the left could be Harma. There's also potentiality for some of the wargs, either Orel, who had the eagle, or even Viramir Sixskins. That being said, Viramir especially, I think you would expect to basically have his own box, right? Like, I mean, you probably release him mounted on a bear, and and unmounted as well. He also has a Shadow Cat and a couple wolves. So, I mean, Viramir, you could do his own hero box, honestly. There's actually loads of other options. I'm not going to go through every single raider south or every single raider north of the wall, but like Val had a boyfriend. I don't feel like looking his name up, but maybe that's who's sitting in the middle there. And then, of course, there's the question of, are there any Thins here? Is the guy in the background, Steer the Magnar Thin? And, maybe. That being said, the Thins wear bronze armor that they actually forge north of the wall. Only forging that really takes place up there. And so I'd expect a Thin to be dressed out more like shiny armor, honestly. Although, that could still potentially be a Thin. I think any free folk player is waiting pretty eagerly for Thins, because I think there's an expectation that they'll have a higher armor value. Not saying that free folk can't work without a 4+ armor save, but I'm waiting for one. I'm waiting for one pretty seriously. My first foray as the free folk ended pretty disastrously. And it wasn't all the armor saves, but I want a 4-up armor save. So that's the free folk. And here is the Lannister Heroes box number 2. And it's just going to be Joffrey with his Kingsguard, which is interesting to say the least. Definitely something different than what we've seen from like all our ensemble boxes so far. And we know we got Joffrey. We know we have Barristan Selmy, and who else is in the box is kind of a mystery. And we'll look at Joffrey and Barristan in a second. We have those cards, but just want to run down the list of potential people that could be in here. Jaime is, of course, becomes the commander of the Kingsguard after Barristan leaves, so that would make some sense. So some potentiality. Meryn Trant is kills Syrio, and then like in the show, he kind of goes on to be a total ass. I could see him. Aerys Oakhart, not a huge role, but he's a POV character in the books. He has some adventures in Dorne. Could be interesting. And then a lot of the other characters that are in the Kingsguard at this time are actually not that interesting. There's Boros Blount, who actually surrenders Tommen and sort of in disgrace is forced to become a food taster. Then there's Preston Greenfield, who dies in some riots, and Mandon Moore, who attempts to kill Tyrion during the Battle of Blackwater. So that's kind of interesting because we don't really know if he was working for Cersei or Littlefinger or someone else. But again, these characters aren't, I don't think make huge waves to readers or show viewers. Potentially, you could do Loras Tyrell, which would be actually quite fascinating. It's a little bit further on the timeline than most of what we've seen so far, but certainly will get everyone excited. Imagine like if he came in and the card said can also be fielded in a Baratheon or in a Tyrell army. Everyone would lose their minds like, oh, it's coming, it's coming. So that could certainly be exciting. So with that, let's actually take a look at the cards for Barristan and Joffrey. So here's Barristan. Duty to the crown. Well, you control the crown each time this unit passes a morale test and we restore up to D3 wounds. And this unit also gains +2 on morale test rolls. Some potential for healing, which there's a lot of units in the Lannister army that could really benefit from that. They have a lot of expensive and hard to kill units, and throwing more health into those units is always good. Means they can't really be removed. I expect him to be relatively cheap because, of course, it's not you can't always have the crown, at least not normally, right? So on paper, this is this ability is somewhat difficult to use as the enemy could block it, etc. However, Joffrey actually will make it very easy to use Selmy. Well, Joffrey is on the tactics board. You count as controlling the crown zone, and opponents can still control this zone as well. And then also, when Joffrey claims a zone on the tactics board, after the effect has been resolved, your opponent may have one of your combat units become panicked. The card does a lot of things we haven't really seen before. It allows you to guarantee that you can control the crown. There's nothing the opponent can do about it. You're going to get control of the crown. Even if they take it, you're going to get it too. And of course, that's good for Lannisters. They have several tactics cards to get pretty big bonuses for controlling the crown. And then we just saw Selmy gets a huge bonus from it. We may see other things eventually. The Knights of Casterly Rock actually at one point they had an ability that was boosted by controlling the crown. So if we saw more things like that, then all of a sudden Joffrey would become even more powerful. And you do wonder if like that was originally balanced with Joffrey in mind, and then they maybe took it out partially because they knew it would be a while till Joffrey came, or who knows. Of course, the other crazy thing about this is our first NCU with a negative ability, which pretty much guaranteed to have happened to you because you can't pass an NCU. They have to claim a spot as long as there's a spot to claim, which means if you take Joffrey, you're going to get 6 panic tokens, which means that he's at the very least a 3, and there's probably an argument for him costing even less than that. Although, of course, there's no way of knowing this could actually be a commander card. Since we can't see the back of it, we don't know that. In which case, again, like taking Joffrey as your commander guarantees you 6 panic. So he must have, if he was a commander, he must have some pretty darn good abilities. So obviously, you can't wait to see what those are. It's a really interesting NCU that it's a cool design space to have NCUs that are giving you negative effects. All right, and that takes us to the Stark's Hero Box 2. Working from left to right, we got Jojen, looking kind of sleepy on the box picture. And then young Rickon, Mira with her frog spear, Syrio Forel, kind of looking on as Arya does some stabbing, and then Osha and Shaggy Dog. So we have the card for Jojen. We'll look at him in a second. I certainly expect Mira to also grant Granagmen to whatever unit she's in, which is certainly an interesting ability. I'm not really sure what you're going to do with Rickon, but of course I imagine he will grant you access to Shaggy Dog. Sirio and Arya, there's this whole like, Arya is a badass assassin. It doesn't look like this version of her is necessarily. So I'd expect something to be a little more sneaky and subterfuge-like versus like, oh, just, eliminate NCU or something crazy like that. And then Shaggy Dog, we've seen the stats on Direwolves, so, probably expect something like that, but at the same time, Shaggy Dog is like definitely different than the other ones. He's the least controlled and most chaotic. So like I'm almost imagining some crazy ability like on a 1, Shaggy Dog charges and attacks the most closest unit or something crazy like that. But regardless, pretty exciting stuff. And let's take a look at Jojen. All right, so Jojen Reed, obviously we don't know the cost. Affiliation, this unit now counts as a Cranagman unit. That is off the bat pretty cool. Presumably Mira will also have that. So, creating a whole Howland Reed Frogman force could be totally doable, quite potentially powerful and interesting. Jojen's ability is called Jojen's Green Sight. When the unit activates, you roll a d6. On a 1, you get horrific visions. The unit becomes panicked and vulnerable. On a 2 and a 3, you get Guiding Hand. This unit may re-roll any misses this turn. On a 4 and a 5, you get The Path is Clear. You make a free maneuver action. And on a 6, you get Perfect Clarity. Look at one opponent's hand of tactics cards and discard 1 card. And then one enemy within long range, this unit becomes vulnerable. So this is interesting. 5 out of 6 times you'll get something good. 1 out of 6 times you'll get something pretty darn bad. There's 6 turns in a game, so you probably expect one bad thing and mostly good things. Becoming panicked and vulnerable is definitely not good, especially if it's a unit that's going to be getting into combat or shot at. That could potentially take it right off the board. Everything else on here is pretty good. Rerolling misses, that's probably best on a ranged unit, although a unit that's already engaged will certainly love to get the rerolls. A path is clear, free maneuver action, always awesome. Of course, you don't know it's coming, so it makes it a little bit less useful. But obviously, a ranged unit would love this. Longbowmen can get into where they need to get without having to worry about losing their extra 4 attack dice. And again, moving up to the flanks is always great, but since you don't know it's coming, it's not that useful. And the Perfect Clarities, there's no reason why you wouldn't want this. Looking at your opponent's hand gives you quite a bit of control. You know what's coming. Discarding a card's even better, and you get to pick the discard a card, where a lot of the other discard cards are random. So pretty powerful. And an extra vulnerable is also nice. So, Jojen, you wonder how much he costs, because there is that one bad thing, 5 good things. So, essentially good things. But again, random means you don't have the control, because sometimes you're going to want to re-roll your misses. Sometimes you're going to want the free maneuver. You'd always want Perfect Clarity, but since you don't get to pick it, it certainly limits his value in my mind. So, a 2-cost unit, a 2-cost attachment, yeah, probably worth it, especially to get some additional Cranagman affiliation onto the field. As a 3-cost unit, probably not that good, right? Just like on the other cards we've seen, seeing the cost will really, let us kind of get a better picture of what's going on here, and that'll be pretty exciting. And since we've seen there's all these hero boxes on the way, probably a lot more stuff that's going to be spoiled soon. So, stay tuned. I'll definitely cover more stuff as it comes out. Hope you're excited about this as I am. Let me know which of the 4 hero boxes you're most excited for at the moment, or if you're excited for the missing neutral hero box. I would imagine we'll have some frays in it. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.